album concept hour. The album concept hour. It's the album concept hour.
When I go to a protest, I bring the backup battery, but it was just a party, so I didn't bring it.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, we'll try to get as much of you as much of this as we can. All right.
Okay.
All right. I'll roll right into the intro then. Welcome everybody to the Album Concept Hour. I am your host, as always, Brad LeBaron, and today we are having a different kind of episode than we normally have. Normally, we're all entertainment, just breaking down concept albums start to finish. But given what's happening in the United States right now with police brutality, murdering George Floyd, I've decided to do a Black Lives Matter themed episode. And we're going to cover RTJ4, which just came out a few days. Today, I'm joined by another podcast host that I've been working with for a long time. His name is Lil Guillotine. You want to say hey?
Hi.
Lil Guillotine, he's been going to... he went to a few of the Minneapolis protests, and he's been going to the Madison ones all week. So he's been on the ground and fighting the fight. We also have another podcaster that it's not quite out yet. There's a podcast that's going to be coming out called Pick Apart the Passion, and this is RamBunxious. What's going on? Yep, this is RamBunxious.
Excited to be here.
Yep. We're excited to talk about this. RamBunxious has been at some of the Madison protests with me. So that's what we've been doing. And then the last person we have with us is my good friend Cruz. What's going on, Cruz?
What's up, guys?
Cruz is actually lives in Minneapolis. He's from Beloit, like me. And he's been at pretty much, you've been at like almost all the protests at this point, right? Like you've been there since the get-go, right?
We do a handful of them. There's a lot of them happening. Obviously,
yeah, I guess you can't be to all of them.
A lot of movement, but yeah, I've been on the ground, but I moved here last year, so I don't consider myself a community organizer. I'm still relatively new to the community, but most of what I've experienced in my background is pretty much the perspective I'm bringing today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have been a great source for me to, be able to check in what's going on in Minneapolis at any given time. My sister lives up in Minneapolis too. Mel, she was on a previous episode, and she actually moved. She went back to Minneapolis from the quarantine stuff the Monday before this all started. So. I'm glad that you're around there, so you can check on her if I need you to. And but today our focus is on Black Lives Matter, talking about the movement, what's been happening the last couple of weeks, and using Run the Jewels 4 kind of as a backdrop for that conversation. I love the album, and I love to talk about the music part of it at length. But that's not the point of today's episode. So if you're looking for just the music, then I don't know, go to a different episode. But if you want to hear about the movement, this is what we're doing today. So I guess we're pretty much all set up. Do you guys want to get into the first track here so we can get Liam on a few of these?
Sure.
All right. So the first track of the RTJ4 is called Yankee and the Brave, and I chose the clips that I think might best help us talk about this. So.
Automatic facts, it's like that. Scam of bliss when you put in feelings in charge of shit. All of us targeted, all we doing is arguing. Harder to mess at work until every pocket been picked and sold and harvested. I'm ready to mob, but these fucking charlatans.
That line stood out. That part right there stood out when I first listened.
Yeah, the mob on these fucking charlatans. Yeah. That's definitely a line that like this track came out like a few months back. Yeah. But yeah, when I listened through this last time, I was just like, fuck yes, like we need to mob on these fucking charlatans. You know what I mean? And it is weird how a lot of this stuff in this album is really prescient for what's happening today. But I mean, Killer Mike, if you guys, have been paying attention to the news at all, he
stays ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And I'm not disagreeing. It is an interesting that what's going on in their lyrics reflecting it. However, it's been going on so frequently. It's not surprising that they would be able to not predict, but speak it forward. Speak about it before it happened. Kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a boiling point. It's a boiling point. So you know what I'm saying. So it makes sense that they're speaking on it in that way.
Yeah, I've been seeing like a few articles, for instance, that are like, oh, this person predicted this or this person predicted this, but like it's like no, it's more just like
logical conclusion.
Yeah, they've all been talking about the same issue for so long, But
and
what's up, Cruz?
It's a part of a continuum of struggle. The civil rights movement was that lasted 30 years from the late 80s up to the early 70s. This is part of a continuum of struggles that dates back to maybe Occupy or something, and then up through Ferguson and up through the fascist shit in the 2016 era, and then till now. So yeah, it's like these movements are things that expand over decades.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
And should have never stopped, actually, but it's another.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to mention talk a little bit about is the fact that there was a really strong Black Lives Matter movement back in 2014 to 2016, but I think I don't know if it's a factor of just Trump getting elected and us just scattering, but it seemed to it took the back seat immediately. I don't know
if you guys want to speak on that.
Yeah, and then in 2016 and 2015, when Ferguson popped off, there were other uprisings that happened in Baltimore and Milwaukee and Oakland and stuff. But those took other murders of Black people by the police to pop it off. But in this case, that didn't have to happen, even though it's continuously happening. But it just kind of just sprung up around the country without any more murders happening. Not that they aren't continuing to do that. And so, and part of I think the coronavirus crisis is a major contributing factor. The fact that the government is giving us the choice between starving in the streets or going to work and dying without any social safety net, kind of made a kettling pot or a boiling point as well. I think contributed to it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because you're right. It is different in the sense that Black Lives Matter. It was a continuation of all of these Black lives that were lost between just those years.
I think also what contributed to it is in this special. I think this is a special case in terms of everybody got to see that 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
Yeah, the video.
That length of time was just. It was that thing right there was so horrific. I think everybody was like, "Wait a fucking second." You know what I mean? Hold up. I think we can't take away from that fact either. Which, of course, it's the world that's involved. So there's gonna be the assumption that the things going on pushed it. But man, I just look at that video and I'm like, nah, I think it's the fucking video. What I mean? I laugh sarcastically, but it's just like, man.
Well, it's one of our tools in the movement to be able to film ourselves and to be able to film the police when they're doing these things. It's that shift in technology, I think, was one of the big shifts in the way that everyone, especially if you're connected to social media, the way you look at these things.
No, totally. Yeah, I mean, that kind of started with Rodney King, because that was probably one of the first documented police brutality incidents
That's true.
really hit things off.
Yeah.
And so the whole concept of video, which we're now at a point where there's a lot of people kind of pushing this mentality that if in the future you see this happening, you better not be recording it, you better be intervening.
Right.
And in my mind, it's you need both.
100%.
Yeah, you probably should still record it, because if it's not recorded, there's a very low percent chance anything's going to get done about it or anybody's going to prosecute it. But also at the same time,
what to say at the scene. You know,
see something,
you record, I
you
jump
better
in.
put your body on the line.
100%, 100%, man.
Yeah. One line I wanted to mention before we get to another track, though, is he talks about how the villains are in charge of shit. You know what I mean? And I think that goes more to, I think he's saying more than just the police force, but like even the people like now that are like kind of covering for the police force and like backtracking and trying to trying to frame this in a way that the police are victims or something. You know what I mean? So yeah, like it's our, what are we supposed to do when villains are in charge?
Yeah, I've been saying recently, of course it's a black-white thing. Of course it's everything that's involved. There's a lot of elements.
Yeah.
But really, it is literally love versus hate, and I really just feel like love will win. And I know that seems very cliche, but it really is. It's really good and evil at this point, and there's not enough evil people. You understand? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
A lot of if you ask the media, there's plenty. Right?
Yeah.
But day to day, there's not enough evil people, right? There's not enough hate that actually exists to win. It's impossible. Race, it just won't work.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Whether we're gonna have to go through a lot of trials and tribulations to get to that point. But on the other side, there's no way. You know what I mean? And I understand the money aspect and all that, but money's a construct that's slowly deteriorating. You know
Yeah. Well, speaking of money, actually, that transitions well into the second track, so I'll go ahead and do that. This track is Ooh La La, and then I'll talk about their music video a little bit.
I pull my penis out and I piss on they shoes in public. People, we the pirates, the pride of this great republic. No matter what you order, motherfucker, we what you stuck with. I used to love Bruce, but living my vida loca. Help me understand, I'm probably more of a joke.
So I just want to talk about the music video for a second for this, because it's actually pretty prescient right now. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
No.
But
other foot, baby.
But
foot.
It's basically just a group of people in like a downtown area just burning money, burning their credit cards, burning burning like what represents like the system, I think, in this music video. And all the while, like you see police helicopters coming in from the outside, and you see smoke on the outside of the crowd. And this was before, like we were kind of saying before, this is something that was out before, the Minneapolis police murdered George Floyd. But and the protests happened, but it's like we were saying before, it's something that's been ongoing, and they're drawing inspiration from previous events. You know what I mean? But yeah, that reminded me of what you were saying about how the money, we need to the money is not what's important as much as our lives at this point, and that's really I think that is in itself is kind of I don't want to say this insensitively, a blessing in disguise that Corona came right before this, because people are broke enough to see that, right? Yeah.
It's not a good thing, but you understand what I'm saying? But
yeah.
To be able to see that, you got to be as broke as the masses used to be before. You see what I'm saying? There's people that weren't in that broke mass before. Now they are.
Yeah.
Now they're like, wait a fucking second,
A lot of uncertainty.
I mean,
yeah. Not knowing what's going to happen next month, the month after that, because we don't really have any leadership on that. Like, 100%. Yeah. There's a lot of. Also, I think the coronavirus, in a way, it helps the movement in the sense that businesses and money and the regular economy is struggling because they're not dealing with the coronavirus well already. So I mean, they're weakened.
Right.
Right. Yeah, we talk about. I have a background in community organizing, social justice. That's what I went to grad school for, and we talk about when we essentially are talking kind of anti-capitalist rhetoric. In order to dismantle those things, you have to find those cracks within the system, and heighten those contradictions, because capitalism is nothing but contradictions. It contradicts itself. It's self-destructing. And so what you're just saying about the businesses already struggling.
Yeah.
With the imminent threat of boycotts and burning them down potentially, we're seeing a huge push from corporate companies kind of pushing this rhetoric of like, oh no, we hear you, we're on your side,
right.
Da, 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 da. Like, don't burn our shit down, please, kind of thing. But in reality, they're realizing how much power people have right now to essentially shut down these multi-million-dollar corporations because they're already struggling. And so this is an opportunity for us to potentially take advantage of, to take it to like another level of kind of action against like the bigger picture of things.
And not to get into derail this or anything, but like we experienced a bizarre thing the other night when we were playing Warzone together.
Oh yeah, that's
right. We had an update right after one of our rounds, and the update was to put up a Black Lives Matter message, and it said, we stand against racism and police brutality and stuff, and so now like the loading screen shows like Black Lives Matter. So like, I have no other example of that in my past. It was, at first I'm like, wait, Warzone, I don't understand, right. But it is, the fact that even, they're doing stuff like that in these corporations is at least telling that they're listening right now.
Yeah. What do you guys, I mean, you kind of touched on it, but what do you guys think about some of these companies? Do you think it's hard to weed out who's sincere and who's just doing a promo? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Money where your mouth is. Yeah. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you going to invest in the communities? What are you going to do about it?
I think that's why some of the banks rushed to do it so fast. Bank of America was one of the first.
They bet.
Fargo. There was a Wells Fargo that caught fire here, and they're headquartered here downtown Minneapolis.
Oh, really? That's the headquarters.
I think so. They have a skyscraper.
They have. Oh, okay. That's probably a big deal.
I would
then.
imagine they're headquartered here, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they're lucky. That we didn't go after that first. You know
That's
what I mean?
I'm saying.
They should be fucking counting their fucking blessings.
About it.
Yeah.
Like how the protests and like all of the kind of uprising and rebelling happened in South Minneapolis where it happened, but like it's just interesting because if you think about it strategically, you would want to do it downtown where all the wealth is isolated.
Yeah,
where that it's not going to affect the communities that are being affected by its issues. So that's just kind of more personal.
That's actually good.
Very interesting.
I don't have that perspective from Minneapolis. I've never been there, so that is good perspective. So you wonder why.
It's like location. I think is probably what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Like since it happened there, they did stuff near there.
That's probably makes sense.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think that's something Killer Mike, was saying in his speech in Atlanta that has gotten a lot of views. One of the big things he kept on saying is we need to come together. We need to, organize. We need to strategize. We need to, he was basically getting at like, if we're going to do this, we need to do it right. And
I don't know if I agree with all of that though. What he said in that speech, because I think he sympathized with the cops just a tad too much for me. I don't. Family, I get it, but come on, man, you haven't said that for years. None of this you're saying is not what you said for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So I get it. Some of it was I understood that part. But a lot of people said that.
Yeah,
speech, man, it threw me for a loop. I'm not gonna lie.
And
I love him usually.
Well, he does have like, have you seen? There's a music video back when Black Lives Matter was happening and their second album came out. There's a song called "Close Your Eyes and Count to Fuck," which Zach De La Rocha is on, and the music video is just a black man and a police officer just fighting.
I remember that.
So like he does have really weird views when it comes to the police. And
he might be conflicted, and I'm not,
because I think because his dad's was a cop. He's got that weird kind of conflict. But I like some. I agree. I like some of the things he said, but I agree. Some of them.
I feel like you got to pick sides, brother. Sorry. You know,
for sure. Yeah, I agree.
You know,
I think that.
What do you think about that? I'm curious.
Yeah, Cruz, what do you think about that?
I saw after that speech, I didn't read the article, but I saw somebody wrote an article about how T.I. and Killer Mike like essentially sold out during that speech. And I think a big component too is like, I think a lot of people right now within this movement have been radicalized in a way to kind of start leaning more towards anti-capitalism. And when you got someone like rappers who have all this wealth and kind of really commercialize themselves, it's really hard to take them serious when they're talking about some of these issues, because Killer Mike likes to promote very, I would say, like revolutionary concepts, but in the framing of capitalism. So he's very, very much big on black businesses and black economies and things like that. But it's under the system of capitalism. So
that has always been my big.
It's almost conservative.
And that's just everybody. Like everybody has that contradiction. Like we're all living in a capitalist society. We may be against it, but we still have to live and survive. And so it's understandable that we all have that contradiction. But when you have people who have some power and wealth, then it becomes a little bit more problematic than the average Joe kind of doing.
Yeah. Killer Mike is best when he is like against the system and speaking out against the system. And then there are like I've seen like you should check out his show sometime
on Netflix. It's hilarious.
It's crazy, you know. But like it's great stuff. He definitely treats you especially the we should talk about, I guess, right here, the episode about trying to just buy black for a week or whatever. That was really, really cool to see play out.
It was
even
sad in the same place.
Very sad.
That was a trip.
So
did he have to sleep on the street because he couldn't find somewhere to stay or something like that?
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah.
He couldn't find any weed that wasn't grown by like Northern California white guys.
Yeah, that's right.
Like he couldn't even smoke. And then there was that one. There's the one part where LP like sits down with this big meal, and he's like, LP's like, "Oh, was that grown by a white guy?" And he's like, "Oh shit." But he was demonstrating though. They were making light and demonstrating the fact that that's I think part of where Killer Mike comes from, is that he remembers a time when his parents and grandparents owned businesses, and the segregation had
pro-Georgia, you know.
Huh?
Him and T.I. are very pro-Georgia.
Yes.
So I think that was a lot of motivation. Like, that's why I'm not hating
them.
They did. I wouldn't call them sellouts. I think that's a little extreme.
Right. Totally.
A lot extreme, but
yeah,
I do think they needed to just defend us more than they did. You know, like defend the people more. You're part of the people, not part of the. I know you're rich.
Yeah, exactly. Part of the.
Don't think they really give a shit about you. The people that you're rich with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
that only goes so far.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. That only goes so far. That goes
for different races that are rich. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Oprah's and Gayle Kings. I'm sorry, I don't believe you. You know what I mean? You did.
Yeah.
I mean, Gayle King, the crying and all that. Okay, maybe. You know what I'm saying? But these people, they're at levels where they can't. It's like they can't step on master's toes in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Because they're locked into it.
They get in that role in these situations, and that's what people are fucking tired of. You know what I'm saying? It's simple as that.
What I really like is John Boyega is been really vocal, and he's literally been going out and saying, "Hey, if this ruins my career, so be it. Fuck you guys." And I'm just like, hell yeah, John Boyega.
At this point, you got to be.
Yeah. More and more people need to fucking do that. You know, because I mean, you can lose your career. Colin Kaepernick, perfect example. You know, I mean, he lost his career for standing up for something, but what he stood up for was bigger than that. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna move on to the next track though, just so we can keep the music rolling. This next track is the third track, "Out of Sight," and this is part by with 2 Chainz.
Assistant went shopping, put my bags in the 8-8. Hello, Mr. Big Safe, the bank teller trying to get ranked. I buy a hot dog stand if I'm trying to be frank. Just left the hospital, making sure my nigga was straight, and sent Bear a couple dollars till they give him a date. Tony.
Ironically, actually talking about a little bit of that capitalism we were just mentioning.
Right. It's a system. went shopping.
Yeah, buy a hot dog stand if I'm trying to be frank.
Yeah.
I like that line though.
It's clever.
Yeah.
It's a good line.
It's clever. I guess depending on my mood, I might like that line. Other days, I might be like, it was corny. I'll be honest.
It's definitely it's riding the line there. Yeah.
But
for
2
sure.
Chainz does that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not a 2 Chainz fan.
Oh yeah, that's totally.
I'll publicly say I'm not a 2 Chainz fan.
Yeah. But yeah, I chose this clip though because he mentions one thing that's really important to the movement, bail. He mentions bail in that line, like he's gonna, he's dropping off bail, so until they give his friend a date. That's something that a lot of, I don't know how many people really understand how bail affects the systemic racism and what part it plays. I was gonna have Liam talk about this, but he dropped out. He lost battery. But he's part of. We've been part of a group called Free the 350, where we've been for the last several years. We've been collecting money for what's called a bail fund. They have this other places. We're not the first to do this. But what a bail fund is it's something that exists to help people get out of jail that are literally just in jail because they can't afford bail. There's a lot of it's called I call it crimes of poverty would be the term. Where it's a low level crime that you are literally just sitting in jail waiting for a date. And it's extremely wrong. It's abuse. It's a really messed up relic of this system, and it's something that weirdly we are paying bail. We're putting money into the system in that way, but the purpose is bigger than that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it's and then I am not an expert on it. But from what I have researched, and I may be wrong, but the bail money does eventually come back to the victim if they show up to court. So all of these protesters getting arrested, if they don't show up to court, the police department is making hella money right now.
Wow.
And I may be wrong, and if either of you know,
that's crazy.
I think I have heard that about court dates in general. The fact that they'll stick you with they stick you with the bill essentially if you don't show up.
That is just unnerving. Anyway.
Yeah, no, there is no justice system. It's just it's
just them versus us.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Man, it's really messed up, and right now some bail funds across the country are being used to help protesters get out.
Yeah.
Our bail fund is so it's made specifically to get black people out of jail because they in Dane County go to jail at a really, really crazy higher rate than white people.
Yes.
And so it was the 350 represents basically how many more black bodies are in jail than white bodies. I'm not sure exactly how it plays out. So that being said, they are applying some funds for protesters, but try to not get all arrested. So you know what I mean? Like they still need that money for the original bail reason, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the organizations were here before this. They were doing the work, and then they shifted their focus. And Minnesota Freedom Fund, they maxed out on their donations. They stopped taking money because they had so much donations.
Wow.
And
that's been happening a lot. Yeah, I mean it's a great thing. Yeah. But I also add to that when people are saying that, I'm like, hey, but make sure you're also putting your body on the line.
Right.
Well, and also keep giving them money after the shit settles down.
Yes.
Because they're going to need it for the people in the community that are going to get
and support the movements that they're putting forward. Try to get community control of the police in your neck of the woods. That stuff that needs to be ongoing. Because I mean, at some point this will settle down. It's because we have memory like goldfish in America.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it doesn't.
I don't know.
But
man.
I mean,
it's interesting, but things keep happening.
Yeah.
That just keep pouring a little more gas and
Yeah.
a little more gas, and
2020.
I don't
2020 seems to be the year.
I don't see that this isn't a escalate and then go back down type of thing.
Yeah.
I really feel like it's just gonna be the way the U.S. is now. Like we're not taking it anything anymore. Like you know what I mean? Like
I really hope so, man.
It's not stopping.
No, I know. It has been amazing me more, every day.
I'm shocked. Don't get it. I'm not saying this like it's obvious. I'm just saying that like when you look at it, you're like, oh shit. Like,
well, yeah, this is unprecedented for our life, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe our grandparents or great grandparents saw some shit like this, but like,
yeah, I mean, I think here's the thing. I've talked about that with people, and I think there has never been anything like this, never. And here's why: the existence of the internet. I mean,
that changes.
It's as big as other things,
everything.
But I mean, in terms like they say, it's the biggest civil rights movement ever. And at first I was like, I don't know. And then I said, well, wait a minute though, it's the whole world, like on the internet.
Yeah,
so it's like
that
it's the whole fucking planet.
Yeah,
like that's
When I saw 100,000 protesters were protesting in some European. Oh, that's fine. But when I saw that there was 100,000 people in Europe protesting this, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like this is it's fine.
It's
finally not just our dirty
ironic,
little.
right?
It's finally not just our dirty little secret. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing: at this point, it's almost like the world versus fucked up establishment.
Yeah.
At this point, it seems like that's the ideology behind it.
Well,
it's not just cops. It's not. It's like everything government now.
Yeah.
It's like it's except for the the few the other people. I'm not gonna get into that. I'm not gonna call them names right now.
Well, yeah, no, but we are getting to a point. I mean, people are like learning how to, support one another on the street. I mean, that's one thing that's really been amazing me is like watching Facebook live feeds and watching people help each other out and watching people, stop other people from destroying important things like libraries or something. Like we don't, like it's really shown we don't need the police. We can police ourselves.
Yeah, dude, like that's what has been pushing, like in Minneapolis, it's pretty surreal because like the way it's divided. So like North Minneapolis is probably the highest rate of poverty. And I want to say the highest population of Black citizens living in North Minneapolis. But all these incidents have happened in South Minneapolis, which is like partly gentrified, partly like highly Latino and Black, and a lot of like immigrant populations as well.
Okay.
Well,
there's a large Somali population in Minneapolis.
It's good. We have the largest, like one of the largest Somali populations in the country. But all of these different communities are like coming together to like take care of each other. And then also like the other communities, like every single food bank across the Twin Cities right now is like full at capacity because there's so many people donating.
Wow.
And it's a good problem to have, but it's like, it just goes to show how quick the community up here has like come together and like started fixing shit. Every day for the past 2 weeks, people have been out cleaning up, helping storefronts put windows back up, donating to all, like there's so many different funds that are taking care of the community that they're not showing all of that. Obviously, they're just waiting for the high adrenaline shit to show on TV, but they're not showing how many people are actually showing up and actually putting in the work to like fix these things.
Yeah. Are you saying they're not showing that in Minneapolis, or are you saying they're not showing that nationally, you think?
Well, anywhere, honestly, but Minneapolis specifically, because we're like kind of ground zero right now for all of this. Like they're not showing the full scope of what's happening here.
Actually, before we get into that, I have a good transition. This song, it's also aptly named. It's called "Holy Calamafuck." But he's talking about kind of how the U.S. twists their narrative and stuff. So.
I'm a rudeness MacGyver, a slapper yapper from the athlete to the tooth bone fiber. I'm liver, dark crime designer, criminal minder, and I'm a born and bred Uso who chop and screw truth up. Think I got a case of the Mondays on fire.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You said Usa.
I love. Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts actually. He pronounces USA USA.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
But yeah, talking about thought thought crime designer, criminal minder. I think he's kind of referencing like the kind of all the kind of Law and Order type shows that we have that kind of reinforce the propaganda for like the police state. You know, and to get back to what you were saying before the clip, though, you know, born and bred in USA, where we chop and screw the truth up, and you've been seeing it the last few weeks, like you were saying, like they only focus on the really extreme type things. They focus on the damage. They focus on the property, and you don't see as much of the people helping each other. You don't see as much of the police brutalizing people as much as you see property damage.
Yeah. And then also, like, to add to that too, the other aspect is when you're hearing about just today, the city board voted to ban the chokehold in the police department. They're no longer allowed to use chokeholds, and if officers are doing that and other officers see it and don't intervene, they get charged with the same penalty of that, which obviously we shouldn't have to have fought for that.
Well, yeah.
That has been a goddamn given, but they're giving credit to the politicians for making these decisions when really it was the people in the streets that forced them to do it. Like, none of this would be happening if we hadn't been in the streets fucking shit up and like tearing shit down. This wouldn't have happened. And so they're not giving credit to where it should be due. They're giving credit to the politicians for saying like, oh, Governor Tim Walz, he's doing such a great job handling this. And it's like, no, he's doing a terrible job at handling this. He's only doing this because we're making him do it. Like,
yeah, that's a word they use a lot, handling this.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean you're handling
you were handling this? It wouldn't have gotten to this point.
Yeah. That's not that's like, you know,
it's a political word.
Yeah. It's like when you drop and you shatter like some plates or something, you like sweeping it up. You know, you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to pick up that glass. You know.
That's good analogy. Very good analogy.
Yeah. So if you didn't, you know, if you let it drop over and over again, then, you know, it's on you.
And none of this is new in Minneapolis. So all of these things that you're seeing, so the ban and chokeholds, the police out of schools, this has been a fight for 10 plus years in Minneapolis specifically of organizers and activists trying to get these things pushed. But because now we're on the national scene, they have this pressure to do it finally. And so when they do announce these things, everybody in the city's like, we're not going to give you a pat on the back because we've been telling you this. And just what you should have been doing the whole time. So don't think you're doing a great job for doing what we've been telling you to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's actually good that's the feeling of the people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've been.
Because some people are celebrating small victories, and I don't celebrate them. I think they should be highlighted in some way.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. It's like we're gonna see a lot of that. You know, pacification almost. You know, and it's like sorry, that's not. We're not going for it anymore. You know, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is helpful to take those small victories as like, okay, like we're getting somewhere, and that's what like keeps people motivated to keep doing it. Is like just those small victories. And I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, I'm not going to fucking praise you and be like, oh, you got to vote him back in and all that shit. But I mean, for us personally, it's going to be like, okay, great. We're doing the work, not because of you, because of us kind of thing. So no, 100% agree.
Yeah.
And I think for some people, this even goes back to the civil rights movement. You know what I mean? Like, since the civil rights movement, which was a great push forward or whatever, like, they've just been chipping away at it, like, you know, so it's been decades and decades of just chipping away at the civil rights movement. And, so, you know, and part of that is, you know, normalizing police violence and, you know, making them, you know, the laws that exist that make it so that you can't, like, portray like armed forces or police in too negative of a way, you know, that should be against the First Amendment, right? But, you know, it's still,
it's an hypocrisy. I mean,
it's still what we live in. So I'm just gonna roll on to the next clip though, because it's similar to what we're kind of talking about here. It's called Goonies versus E.T.
Ain't no revolution is televised and digitized. You've been hypnotized and Twitterized by silly guys. Cues to the evening news, make sure you ill-advised. Got you celebrating the generators of genocide. Any good deed is palm punished and penalized. Rulers of the world is sliced it up like a dinner pie. Race in a nation told you to identify. Take false pride in warfare incentivized.
That's almost exactly what we're talking about, actually.
Real hard track there.
Yeah, yeah. Like the line especially. Yeah, got cues to the evening news, make you ill-advised, got you celebrating the generators of genocide. And, like, that's kind of what you're talking about. Like we're like, oh, they're handling this so well, you know, right. But you guys created the problem.
Exactly, right.
Yeah. Yep. Or at least upheld the problem that you were passed the baton of
right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
At some point, someone's got to be like, oh, I guess we should fix this. You know?
Yeah, I mean, the whole concept of the very first line, no revolution is televised, goes right back to what I'm saying about they're not going to show you the community gathering. They're not going to show you that communities are policing themselves.
Yeah.
Every neighborhood,
I just got that
in Minneapolis right now, has community watch groups right now. My boss lives in Powderhorn where this incident happened in the neighborhood, and her neighborhood got together and created a community watch, and they've been watching the streets at night for people trying to fuck shit up. And also I have students whose family own businesses in Cedar Riverside neighborhood, and they've been standing guard in front of their businesses, protecting it from looters and shit. And they're not talking about that shit. And the cops are arresting these people too, and shooting at them on their porches for not being inside for curfew. There's that video that was in Minneapolis of the people on their porch.
Yeah,
they started shooting at them.
Was that the one, the girls that ran back inside? The same?
Yeah, they shot
that
her.
one. That was Minneapolis. I didn't see where it was.
Nope, that was in Minneapolis. So like that part of it isn't being showed as much as it needs to. And I think that concept is starting to shift, like we talked about earlier with technology.
Yeah.
That we're like, it's becoming impossible to deny the truth anymore because we have video documentation of it.
Yeah, we don't really need the evening news as much as we need to just talk to each other.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I will salute the Madison news stations here. They purposely made it known that the people tearing up weren't doing it for protest reasons. They were showing that as much as they could and showing that there were peaceful people. And that one thing they didn't show also, though, is people that I know who have done interviews with local guys that kind of just report the community on their own. And they've done stories where, hey, I got attacked. You know, it wasn't a thing where we got attacked by the cops. So the news didn't show that part, but however, so it is interesting that there's even a small shift in the local news. You know, even that little small shift is interesting. I'm not gonna applaud it like we said before. I'm not gonna,
we might have been watching the same newscast because there was the lady that was at the studio that was kind of being very critical of it and kept on saying like what started as a peaceful protest turned violent. She kept on saying that. And then the guy on the scene, the guy on the scene was like, hey, you know, like there's a lot of people here. There's only a few people that are really doing damage. And even he got in a cloud of tear gas at some point, you know. But yeah, even in his being in the cloud of tear gas, he was like, yeah, no, this is a peaceful protest. You know, there's just, you know.
This is interesting that,
But yeah, it was, I was,
exactly what it was, you know.
I was pretty surprised to hear the guy at the scene being cool about it.
Yeah.
But that's local. Good job, Madison. Everyone else follow their lead.
Sort of.
On that aspect.
Madison news aren't any saints either.
No. I mean, the person in the studio was wasn't the person in the studio was pretty firm, like, no, this is so violent. This is awful. But the guy on the scene's like, no, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
There was a protest that started at WCCO in Minneapolis, local news station, to push to have one of their anchors fired because she's married to Bob Kroll, who's the
I heard about that.
Head. And that is
that's a hella conflict of interest.
Wow. So I mean, Bob Kroll, if you just look at the fucking guy, like, you know he's got a head. Like,
yeah, I know.
Someone had a sign at the protest that was like, dead on. I'm going to pull it up really quick because it was funny as hell. It was like Bob Kroll, 5% skull chewing tobacco, 3% Top Gun fanatic, 2% pickup truck, 10% fragile masculinity, 80% excessive force. And I was just like, yeah, that's what that motherfucker is right there.
Yeah. Oh, that's a lot of cops, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, I think like what's really good with the organizers in Minneapolis is they're hitting it at like all levels. Like we're hitting the news outlets, we're hitting the Star Tribune. Like they've been reporting on the police killings, like really biased for the past 10 years. And like, we're just trying to hit every aspect of people in power to be like, call them out, like let them know who they are. And we'll make sure that they're dealt with kind of thing. So
and let them know that we're here and we have more than them. There are more of us than there are of them.
Yeah. I bet 90% of the people at that protest didn't know they were married until then. Like, no one probably ever talked about that before this.
No.
They probably paid not to. You know, who knows?
No, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure someone at the news probably wanted to talk about it, and then was like, "Oh no, we can't put that out."
Yeah, the director was like, "No, you don't understand."
Yeah. I mean, you'd like to think that it's all, hunky-dory in the newsroom, but when you have someone married to a police chief or police officer, then things union head sorry, then there's a conflict of interest. And they definitely don't highlight the police brutality nearly fucking enough. That's the biggest thing they fucking miss on the news. I mean, they get like little snapshots of protesters getting hit with gas or but they don't show anything fucking violent, Right. But I'm gonna move on to clip 6. It's walking in the snow.
And every day on the evening news they feed you fear for free, and you so numb you watch the cops choke out a man like me until my voice goes from a shriek to whisper, I can't breathe. And you sit there in house on couch and watch it on TV. The most you give is a Twitter rant and call it a tragedy. But truly the tragedy.
Yeah, it's kind of some more of what we were talking about too.
There's not much to say on that. He said it. I mean, perfectly spelled out for you. You know what I mean?
Well, I do want to point out though, like, so he says that line, like, I whisper, I can't breathe, and like, if you don't know, I don't know, if you don't know the timeline, you might think that this is about George Floyd, because that's exactly what happened again. Right. But this is actually about Eric Garner from 2014, which the exact same thing happened. He was choked out, and he said he couldn't breathe, and he died. And that officer, slap on the wrist. You know what I mean? So, when we saw this with George Floyd, I mean, it was like a flashback for some people. You know what I mean? But yeah, and one thing that LP tweeted before the album came out, he actually tweeted just that section of the song, and he talked about how he wished that he can live in a world one day when his music, the horrible things that happen in his music, are prophetic. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just, it's a tragedy that had to happen again for 8:45. How long was that?
8:46.
8:46. Yeah.
Well,
that's insane.
The line in here where it says you've been robbed of your empathy, replaced it with apathy. That one was so point. So on point. I was just
we're desensitized to it.
Yes, sir.
There's too many people. It's like, oh, it's just another black man that was killed.
Right.
That's what happens in America. Like that's just what we do here.
It's strategic too. It's not by accident that we've been desensitized. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it's very, and we all know that. I'm just saying for the listener and the viewer. Sure. If you don't know that, there's plenty out there research you could do to see, and things that they do on a normal basis. You know what I mean? With symbolism onto just in your face.
Yeah, and I mean, and to go back a few years, to go back to now, I mean, we still have people in camps all over the country, like concentration camps, still, you know what I mean? And I can't wait till a movement like this happens for that, but like we kind of become desensitized to that even. It's not because the news cycle has moved past it. And I mean, honestly, not that it's it should be an excuse, but during the Trump presidency, like we've just been kind of chasing like every horrible new thing that happens.
So much.
And it's hard to focus on all of it, but like like that's what needs to, I think we need to start talking about moving forward here is all the other things that are severely messed up about our country right now.
Yeah, I think that like this happening specifically in Minneapolis is really telling of why I feel like part of the reason why this is blown up the way it did. We have a huge variety of diversity in the city that you can't find in other cities. Like I said earlier, like we have a huge Somali population. We are pretty open to immigrants kind of settling here. And what we're seeing is like the movement here is multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-generational, multi-class, in some capacity with the class. But we're seeing that like we're all on this, it's starting to come together that we're all on the same side, and that like we need to be showing up for each other because all of our struggles are related. Like all the concentration camps, that's all about border militarization. That's giving the only reason that's being played out the way it is because they're getting funding and no oversight of what they do on the border with CPB. And same thing with native populations. I mean, obviously they're like day one were part like affected by this country's founding. So having all those intersect to basically say like there's this common understanding between all of us that here's the enemy, here's the problem, here's how we fix those things. It's been good to see that kind of start to come up a little bit more. But the danger is you don't want to hijack the movement for other purposes. But I do think there is an intention within it to address other issues and have those voices also be on this platform. Some may disagree, though. Some also are very much against that concept within the movement.
Well, I would hope that this would at least get some people to rethink the abolish ICE stuff. You know what I mean? Because I mean, this is exactly, this is even worse is maybe happening to people that aren't citizens. They're literally being put in camps, concentration camps, like literally called them by Holocaust survivors. I mean, you know what I mean? Like if a Holocaust survivor says it's concentration camp, it's a concentration camp.
I mean, it's pretty much the criteria. That's the line, right?
There are no other criteria better than that. So we need to moving forward. We need to start to talk about that stuff. I mean, we need to finish. We need to finish what we're doing right here. You know what I mean? We do need to put the energies in the places they need to be so that we don't lose it.
Right. And I think like and it's really shitty, but like with the whole kind of anti-immigration rhetoric that we're pushing in this country, it's mostly because why people get so off board with that and aren't on board with that whole movement of abolish ICE is because it's not our citizens that are affected by it. Right, these are outsiders. We got to worry about our own problems here first, kind of thing. And it's like, no, this is a part of our own problems. Like this all ties together. 100%. It's all systemic. Like the funding there, the militarization, the technology that they're getting down there is coming from our law enforcement agencies. That we already have this shit. We're just putting it in different locations. So it does tie together. And if you like it, and it's starting to get to a point where if you support Black Lives Matter and support this movement, but you don't support the other movements, then it's getting to a point where people are like, well, then you don't support any of this because it's all tied together.
Which is good.
You can't cherry pick it at this point. It's too hard. It's impossible to do that.
Yeah, 100%. I've been seeing that a lot. Like, people will say, wait, you can't be racist over here, but not racist over here. It doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's pretty much flat. People have been cut and dry, and they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think that we've laid like the groundwork over the last decade. You know what I mean? Like Liam was saying earlier, like kind of since Occupy, and like that was kind of the first time that we saw protests happening all over the world at the same time for the same reason. And I think that was a real shift. Well, huh?
Oh,
well, I'm talking about like literally like you can look at live what's happening. You know what I mean? That's got a slightly different character to it. Yeah. And like that blew my mind. Like when I was younger, I was like, this is incredible. And it fizzled out because it was crushed, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I think that was maybe a shift in consciousness for some people.
Oh yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
The 1% concept.
Yeah,
a lot of people probably don't even realize that it came from Occupy, or like just kind of thought it was. Because I know for a while I didn't make the connection because I didn't really follow Occupy back in the day because I was still pretty young and was just ignorant to it. But the whole concept of the 1% and the 99%.
Well, Queensryche mentions it in their album in '92, I think.
Well, I was gonna say, like that concept wasn't necessarily new. There's some books I had read that they didn't say 1%, right?
Yeah.
So the actual phrase might be kind of from that whole, more popular or something maybe, but the concept that there was a small group that had money, I mean, that's been around forever. And I personally, being a little older, that you knew you knew the number was that small. But then when they told you it was literally 1%, that was shocking to people. You know what I mean? That's, I think.
Oh yeah, like the concept existed, but then it was proven with data.
1%. You're like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, it's like
a wake up to people.
Yeah.
That means it means all of us are poor then.
Yes, it does. It does. Like essentially, it means all of us are poor.
Yeah, I think some people were kind of taken off by that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're like, wait a minute, we're all poor?
Right.
I don't get it. But speaking of money, this next track is it's the banger. It's Just featuring Pharrell Williams and Zach De La Rocha.
Master Instagram, cause you can instigate a follow. Shit. Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar. Get it?
Yeah. Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar.
Get it?
Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar.
Get it?
Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar.
Get it?
Look at all these slave masters.
Yeah.
This is probably the one song that I actually listened to multiple times.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
This is a good song.
Yeah, that was a
great song.
Banger.
Yeah. I was thrilled to see Pharrell Williams on it. You know what I mean? He's legendary.
Well, I mean, Zach De La Rocha,
and he's legendary.
I was more excited about that, but
I was just like Zach De La Rocha and Pharrell Williams.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow,
that's a crazy mix.
Yeah.
And just the concept to repeat that over and over, and the way and they use posing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? As if it's on Instagram or something. I feel like they had to have been thinking that. You know what I mean? In some way when they wrote. I think that's awesome.
I think they're talking about. It's like multiple meanings. Like I think they're talking about like Instagram. Like what do they call themselves?
Models.
Influencers.
That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. Influencers. Yeah. Which are just they're just popular. That's it. You know what I mean? And they just buy expensive stuff and go to vacation places and take pictures and stuff. And it's just like, it's weird because it's like, since we've had this whole Kardashian shift in the opposite of Occupy, I guess. We have all of these just rich people that are famous for being rich.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just bizarre.
That's super bizarre. But not to get too far off the topic of the line. The slave masters posing on your dollar. It's almost like the slave masters being arrogant in a way too. Is what this thing. You know what I mean? Look at them posing on your dollar. That's look at them. You know what I mean? Like
they want you to see their face.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's. To me, all the concept of all it could go many ways, but I think that's what I got out of it. Like, look at these slave masters just posing on your dollar, like, look, and then of course the obvious fucking slave masters on the dollar bill. You know what I mean? Like, the obvious,
literally.
What the hell?
Yeah,
right? So I think it's brilliant, man. I really think it's one of the brilliant lyrics on the
and then
album.
At the end when Zach De La Rocha says it, he just says, "Look at all these slave masters."
Yeah.
So like you could take a completely different meaning from just his one,
Yeah.
So like now, like looking at it now, like today, as opposed to like slave masters in the past tense.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's awesome.
Yeah. I noticed that like the last time I listened to him, I'm like, hey, he doesn't say the last little bit.
Yeah.
Because he's Zach De La Rocha. He knows what's up.
My first reaction to the lyric was, I totally missed the connection the first time I heard it of like, oh, literally there are slave masters on the money.
Right.
But my interpretation was that like, oh, okay, like they're rappers, they're in the music industry, funded by these multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar record companies, and
I will point out that this was released for free.
Yeah,
they do release all of their shit for free.
Oh, they did? Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
I mean, right, I bought a record, but like,
sure. Well, yeah, but just to
to point out.
Well, they don't give away merch for free. And
no. They make a ton of merch, a ton at the shows, and I mean, Killer Mike's got that like big ass gold chain he's rocking these days. That big ass bird. Yeah. So yeah, they definitely got them dollars. But
what were you gonna say?
What were you saying before I interrupted?
Yeah, just kind of a commentary on the music, the rap industry itself. Of you're doing all this work for like you're a slave to the master who really has control over all your assets and art and all of those things. That was my first interpretation of it.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, I like that there is kind of there was a song, an EP called "Fuck the Money" that came out by Talib Kweli, and the whole point of it was just I mean, yes, he's like making money, but Talib Kweli is also like a really he's an activist. Killer Mike's an activist too, but but like they're starting to create that narrative though of like fuck the money in some rap music, which I think is good.
Or just creating your own wealth, like having absolute control over what you're doing.
Yeah. Right. But what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I of course I'm a hip hop artist.
That's right.
But,
you probably know better than either
but
of us.
I go back and forth with the validity of their message sometimes. And then their actions, you know what I'm saying, in the political industry. It's like, but you're not doing all that. You know what I mean? You might do one thing and you show, but consistency matters. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I go back and forth with it. You know what I mean? Honestly, because like a Jay-Z has a lot of money. It's almost I think he's a billionaire now.
He's got
together.
He's got a fuck ton. Yeah.
So
he's on lists.
In all honesty, the amount of money that he has. He could do 100 times what he's doing. He's doing more corporate moves and stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like, you say all this, but I don't know if I believe you because you could literally clean up whole cities. I mean, like just you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
there are some rap artists that do that sometimes, right?
Office, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like we were saying earlier.
Yeah. So I struggle with it. That's
just philanthropy. Like that's all that is. Like philanthropy is essentially the rich's way of contributing to society. When in reality, it's not really solving any issues. It's putting band-aids on it.
They're money laundering.
Thank you for saying that. It's exactly what I was trying to say.
No, totally. No, you got it.
Yeah. They're just cleaning up their money so that it's legit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. If you guys here.
We've seen Breaking Bad, right?
This book, The Revolution Will Not Be Funded. I know they're probably going to see it on the podcast, but Beyond the Nonprofit Industrial Complex, it basically essentially breaks down how nonprofits can be essentially hijacked by the wealthy. So you got like Ford Foundation, Ford families, filthy rich generationally, and essentially how they hijack these different nonprofits to then get tax breaks or to like put on a facade of the image of the corporation that they're representing, and it's a really good book, and it goes it's an anthology of different essays. But
I love those.
If you should totally check it out. Revolution Will Not Be Funded. Kind of blew my mind the first time I learned about that concept of nonprofit industrial complex.
Is it on audiobook?
About the prison industrial complex, and so like that connection is really interesting. But there's some really good authors in it too. So
I'm making a note of that book right now. Actually, make sure I check it out.
Totally.
Is that do you know if it's got an audiobook?
It's by Insight, the public, or that's not the publisher. Insight is an.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
It might have an audio.
Yeah.
It's been out for a minute.
Okay. Yeah, no, I usually that's what I listen to most of the time. But yeah, let's move on to track 8 just for the sake of time and whatnot. This is Never Look Back.
81 when I moved to the county where the
Kings is.
Walk past St. James Place where the
King live.
Think quick, never saw class at delinquent. Never get cash for the beats and a
Saint-ship.
smart ass kid with a mean lip. Mom said Jay gonna speak, better mean it.
Deepness.
Now I'm on fleek as a preset. I don't wear a leash and a leash, but I'm beastin'.
Yeah, so this is kind of a verse that's a story about LP talking about rising out of squalor and trying to use his art to rise above where he came from or whatever. But I was thinking we could just use this as a way to opportunity to talk about like just class and how that affects Black lives and just institutional racism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we don't have like a lot of class consciousness, I think, in the United States. I think that's one thing that we lack in is like really properly assessing how the class.
Well, we were kind of touching on that a little bit ago, I think.
Yeah, I think a little bit. Yeah.
I think. I think class doesn't exist in all honesty. I mean, we kind of talking about with the 1%. In my opinion, at this point, it's I think there's people that they imagine that they're in a different class than other people. But in all actuality, I think but I don't think any of that exists in terms of money, in terms of the distribution of power. You know what I mean? I think it's kind of like it's still that 1%, even in the power form, even with the money form, and almost in every. Like I saw a video earlier, okay, and this lady summed it up perfect, and I shared it on my Facebook. Okay, I'm not gonna say my Facebook, but and she compared. Excuse me. Sorry, I smoked too much. She compared Black people in America to Monopoly, and it was like, let's say we playing Monopoly, and we've played 400 rounds of Monopoly. That's in 400 years, right? And so then for the last 50 rounds, and for those 400 years, everything I made in Monopoly, I had to give back to the person that I was playing against, okay? And then for the last 50 years, you gave me like 10% of your money and then said, okay, now catch up to me, right? So you can win, right?
Yeah.
So now, right, the analogy was crazy, right? I was like, this is amazing. It's perfect, right?
Yeah.
And then she said, there's no catching up, right?
No.
You can't win, right?
No.
And so I look at that in a way also, of course, that is absolutely true for Black people in America. Mm-hmm. But I look at that for the way they've treated class and poor people in America and the rest of the 1%.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah,
How
definitely.
can we catch up? You know what I mean?
No,
They got all the guns. They got all the money, right? But like I was saying earlier, hate can't win. That's all falling. You know what I mean? Even your military, I was telling somebody the other day, even your military who might think it's a different class than us, when it comes down to it, half of that military is going to be like, I'm not killing my family and my people, my neighbors. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever.
Yeah.
That will
exactly.
happen. You know what I'm saying? And so in that way, I think class is kind of just a figment of arrogant imagination. You know what I mean? For whoever thinks they're bigger than you know what I'm saying?
I guess I see it as like I see class as kind of
making sense now. But.
No, you're making sense. I see class as like a symptom of like the I guess society that we live in and who and the powers that are in charge or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like not something that like necessarily needs to be. It's not something that's natural.
Right.
Like in nature, there are certain animals that have hierarchies or whatever if you want to get into semantics.
Right.
But like You know, like by and large, like, you know, nature's pretty like chill and trying to, you know, it's about ecosystem and about, you know, supporting 100%. Each other and everything. Like it's so to take a hard stance that some people are for whatever reason better than other people is completely absurd.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I mean, it's a complete construct created by like our founders and the government. Like the government defines poverty levels. Like they list.
Yeah, right. They literally.
I mean, I work with low-income first-generation students, and we're federally funded.
Yeah.
And they have a chart for qualifying students. Is if you have a family of 1, 2, 3, 4, here's the income that you need to make below in order to be considered low-income poverty.
Right.
And so they're setting these standards of what those things are, and
which
we're just following.
Incredibly skewed, by the way.
Absolutely.
Amazingly.
Yeah.
The average American has more in common with someone who's houseless and has no income than someone who's a millionaire.
Oh,
like you are so much closer to being in that person's shoes than being a millionaire. Like,
and that goes back to what we were saying about how COVID kind of showed us that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good.
How easy it's just.
Well, I was going to say in some companies, though, you're like maybe 2 positions away from someone in that completely different like lifestyle.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at some like, you know, I'm not going to get into where I worked, but there were you know, there was a real what's the word when you get your family and friends in position? Nepotism.
Yeah.
And like, you know, the warehouse and the corporate place were connected. And so there was all of these clear signs of class division between the warehouse and the corporate people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In just, you know, a couple of the ways that we were, you know, treated for certain things. And so sometimes it's right there for people to see, you know, if they want to reach out and like, you know, see where the lines are or whatever. Because, there's some people that are comfortable and don't want things to change, you know, and those people need to get with the program. You know what I mean? But let's move on to another track. This is The Ground Below. And this is a really just inspiring, just kind of thing for the movement.
Every child, woman and man, opinion don't matter, stick to your plan. If they judge, still don't budge, don't give an inch, don't give a nudge. Life a bitch, leave you battered and bent, lose a win, got a hold of your chin.
And I do think that he's like talking to like just I mean I know that like this is before George Floyd, but I think he is talking about like the left in general to me, because I mean he is someone that is you know, very active on the left. What's up?
He's talking to his people.
Yeah. Well, but I think he's also like kind of trying to like say like, hey, don't focus so much on what we don't have in common. Focus more on what we have in common, and don't become separated and divided by the powers that be.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Which is you know, that's a nice message.
Yeah, I think it's a cool, inspirational part of the rhyme. I think he's also kind of saying, hey, I'm one of you too. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It goes back, but I also, you know, like we were talking about the speech earlier. I feel like you know, it's one of those times when you wonder why he said that. Then when he said something like this, it's you know, so it's interesting. I like that song.
I would love to see a video of Killer Mike on the street at a protest.
That hasn't happened yet, has it?
No, I don't think so. That'd be a good way to put his money where his mouth is.
Wow,
or whatever. You know what I mean?
I know in the past he has, but not.
Well, I know he's. Yeah, I was gonna say this movement so far, I haven't seen any footage at all. I mean, it's possible that he's done stuff. I mean, not gonna. I don't know what's going on in his backyard, but like,
these lines really specifically, I'm seeing at these protests. About basically, so like for example, the one I was at yesterday, there was a white woman up front where the speakers were,
Yeah.
And essentially was just trying to instigate, just doing white woman shit. And
Karen shit.
What they did, I mean, what they essentially did was just like, they were like, this is not the place for you. Like, this is not where you're voicing your opinion. There is a very specific thing we're doing here, and we're going to ask you to leave. And so I think that mentality of not engaging with the other folks who are against us and just like ignoring it and not even giving it the time of day, like the opinion don't matter, stick to the plan, is what I've been seeing nonstop with all these organizing. Because I think at every single one, there's been somebody who's been trying to start shit just vocally.
There's always.
And then they just like shut it down instead of like instigating or like yelling and harassing. They're just like, not the place, not the time. Yeah, this is not what we're here for. You need to leave.
Yeah, and not to discredit the movement, but there's always going to be a few of those people that are just coming out to fucking start shit. You know what I mean?
When we were on the one I saw you in Madison, that we were earlier in the day, and then we saw each other again.
Mm-hmm.
At that one, there was one dude who came from the Capitol steps, and I don't know where he came from, but he came from behind the crowd, and he started yelling something that was actually anti, what we were doing. I can't remember what he said. But there was a couple of people people were reacting and starting to go towards him, and I was yelling. I'm like, ignore him, and then some other people helped me. And we were like, ignore him, like, 'cause that's the thing that will incite what we're not trying to do with the cops. You know what I'm saying? Like, And then that's the thing that's reported. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad to hear you say that other people were doing that in Minneapolis. I'm really, I'm saying that I'm glad to hear that.
Oh, they even corralled the woman, which was pretty crazy. They had the marshals for the march. They had the yellow vests on. They were the ones that kind of directed everything.
Oh, I've been seeing pictures of that. I've been seeing those pictures,
and said, we'll walk you out, but you got to move, but we're not going to unlink our arms until you're away from the crowd. And she moved away, but then they had her up on a wall, and they were like, if you're not going to walk away, we're going to stand here. And we're that's just going to be what it is.
Yeah. That's just going to be this right now. Yeah.
On the line right there.
Yeah. No, and going back to like that night we were out, like there was one moment where I think it might have been the same instance, but like there was people that were trying to start marching down, like we were all on the Capitol, and they were trying to start marching down State Street, which is away from the Capitol in a different direction. And so like the crowd at the Capitol is like, move back, like we started chanting move back because like the night before the police like cornered people and like separated the group, and like that's when the shit started popping off, was when they were cornered.
We did that down there.
It's
very easy to do that down there. Those streets are made for it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and they know how to do that. Mifflin and Halloween and all that. They want you on State Street. It's easy.
Exactly.
For them,
Madison's a fort. Like downtown Madison's a fucking fort.
Not lying.
Yeah. But yeah, it's really cool to see each other, first of all, practicing that, community policing of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're demonstrating that we can do that.
Dude,
And
black protesters stopping white kids from breaking windows and not whooping their ass on site has been like,
right.
Strain that takes
Didn't
to
even
not
whoop
whoop
their
some white
ass.
kids for like fucking this up for us.
I know.
So much restraint.
Yeah. Because everyone else is aware that cameras are on them just as much as the police. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Like, we all know that we're all fucking being watched. You know what I mean? So you might as well be a good person, for God's sake.
I mean,
I don't know.
That's a futile message.
I know.
You should do that off camera too. But
I'm just trying to be positive in a terrible time. But no, like it's something that we're getting better and better at, and I'm really, really proud of the movement. Like for real. I didn't know if I would see something like this in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Like I thought it would take a little longer, honestly. But I'm
Yeah. It's been
We're 2 weeks in.
We're 2 weeks in.
Yeah, that's
just a reminder. I think
good call. Good call.
It's the beginning. It's still in the infantile stages for sure.
Shouldn't be laughing.
So that's okay. You gotta have balance of emotions and stuff,
right?
Laugh,
You gotta laugh.
It's important. It is.
This next track, though, speaking of being 2 weeks in, the song's called "Pulling the Pin."
Same moment in history back to haunt us, and here we are again. Hello boy, long time watcher, first time calling it. Every cage built needs an occupant. Got a deadbolt, see him lock it in. Had a good run, but they stopping it. Wanna walk man to the coffin lid. Put your heart out, fiction band. Truly the truth, the stranger document.
Let me see those lyrics.
So like the reason I chose that section is it brings up what I think is I think we talked about it earlier about freeing people from jail, but every cage built needs an occupant. Like that line alone for me is like, we have all of these countless jails, private prisons, and state-run prisons that are funded by all sorts of organizations. I mean, inmates like make stuff for, or I don't know if they still do, but they used to make furniture for the university at slave wages.
I just heard
or whatever.
About that recently. I just heard about that recently. I'm not sure if they shut it down or not.
Yeah, I know it.
Going on though.
Yeah. That was definitely something that was happening though in recent history, and it's still happening in a lot of places. So. Moving forward, we need to defund the jails. We need to defund the prison system, and
I think a lot of people jumped on board with that concept with the immigration detention centers,
right.
because those spawned like brand new private detention centers. I mean, concentration camps, but they were very explicit in stating that they're there for profit, and in order to make that profit, you have to fill the beds, and that applies to jails and prisons as well.
Right.
And so, the whole concept of every cage needs an occupant is that's the intention with jails and prisons, is to produce profit and slave labor. I mean, it's in the 13th Amendment. Like only prisoners can still be kept as slaves, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's like the big.
If you
thing
haven't read it, read it.
Yeah.
Maybe watch the documentary on Netflix.
It's super digestible.
It's great.
If you watch that and still don't agree, I don't know what to fucking tell you. Dude. I really don't know what to tell you.
We don't need to have a conversation.
Yeah. Then you need some kind of therapy, I think.
Right. You got some other issues to work.
Yeah. No, talking to you ain't gonna help much.
I thought it was interesting, the line right before that. Hello, Void, long-time watcher. Well, it said now we see the same moment in history back to haunt us. Here we go again. But the hello, Void, long-time watcher, first-time calling in. I think that's interesting because there are a lot of people that are just joining movements like this, have never been or never cared. You know what I mean? Right now, and in the last few years too, with each movement, there's people that are joining these movements who would have never done that before, you know? Yeah, right, 100%.
Haven't been affected by the stuff.
Right, and I think that was an interesting line. And then they had a good run, but they stopped it. You know, that's another one. You know, want to walk man into the coffin. You know, like it.
Yeah,
this is some of the more charged lyrics, I think, in just what they mean. You know.
Yeah. I mean, like to step back and talk about LP for a second. Like this is actually some of his like best like this is very reminiscent of his old stuff before he was in Run the Jewels, where he's a lot more heady and a lot more like sci-fi and big themes.
Cancer for Cure.
Yeah, Cancer for Cure and Fantastic Damage. Yeah. So like it's really great to see him, you know, going back to some of that perspective. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I was gonna seeing history back coming to haunt us, you know what I mean? Like that's really fucking prescient right now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like just history from a few years ago.
100%.
We didn't deal with.
And then that last line too. Truly the truth. Eat your heart out, fiction fan. Truly the truth. The stranger document. I mean, we're seeing that.
Huh. Yeah.
You know, we're seeing truth that we never could have. You know, no writer could have ever thought of. You know what I mean? Just the craziest stuff in the world.
Yeah.
And so,
2020.
It's also appropriate to. I guess compare that to what I was saying, like it's new people now joining. This is why this is bigger than ever, is because we haven't seen what we're seeing now. You know what I mean? We haven't experienced, you know, when I heard that the state of Minnesota, you could speak on this more than me, was suing its own police department in Minneapolis. I had to research for it. I couldn't find where that had happened any other time in history. I'm still looking.
It is new.
You know,
the human rights.
Shit, yeah.
coalition, or there's some entity with the city government about human rights, and that agency is looking to sue and do an investigation through it. And not a lot of cities have that agency in their governments, right. So it is pretty unique to Minneapolis and Minnesota specifically. Right. I don't know the specific like where they fall in the government or how they're funded or anything, but it is still in the system. It's kind of like the system investigating the system in a way, but it is separate from law enforcement.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right though. It is pretty unique.
Yeah, and we're seeing small events. Well, not small, but we're seeing examples of this over and over, like every day. And so, I think that that line was very on point. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, definitely. And we're gonna keep seeing this until it's dealt with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unfortunately.
Well, we've got a new approach. It's all new approaches that people are taking now.
Yeah. Well, it's like
sort of. You know what I'm saying? Like
it's like we're taking our we're taking all of our theory and we're putting it into practice finally.
Yep.
Yeah. True.
You know, like a lot of people have been kind of absorbing. What's up?
Praxis.
Yeah.
The terminology we use, putting theory into action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, a lot of people have been kind of absorbing this stuff through social media and memes and stuff, like they've talked about a few times in the album. But yeah, now those people are on the streets. You know, some of those people are now on the streets. You know, and it's
my mom and stepdad are COs, correctional officers at a county jail, and even my mom's been pretty receptive to all of it. Like, she's not super law enforcement, Blue Lives Matter kind of thing. But
it really surprised me when you told me that.
Views on things, but right now I've just been talking to her, and we're just like you can't deny what's happening. It's past that, and he's like, yeah, you're right. It's pretty messed up.
Right. Yeah. I think. I think it goes back to what we were just talking about. You know, new faces are coming to the movement because it's like at some point people are realizing, look, okay, so they haven't been tripping this whole time. You know, I'm not really speaking in technical terms. I'm saying these people were right. You know, people are like, oh shit, they were right. You know,
yeah.
Like a little off the subject of what's going on. Well, no, not at all. Kaepernick has been gotten apologies from people that he called him out in the media, and now they're publicly apologizing. It's not the NFL, but other people within sports and stuff. And I think that's, a lot of people have been like, oh, it's not enough. But I think all these little small victories have to just start snowballing and building a mountain. You know what I mean? And building a staircase. You know what I mean? I don't like this. It's the only time you'll ever hear me quote MLK because it's too cliche, but it's true. I don't know the whole staircase, take the first step, right? And so I think there's a lot of these first steps that are happening, lining up.
Yeah.
And then it's frustrating to me, and I don't know why I mentioned this now, but it's frustrating to me that people are basically shitting on some of them, and they don't see that it takes the snowball effect. And so you find, oh, well, that's not good enough.
It doesn't happen.
Somebody painted the D.C. mayor today painted the Black Wall Street up to the White House, right?
And renamed the street.
And somebody's like, it's not enough. It's just a gesture. I'm like, are you kidding me? What? up to the White. This is the president's driveway, right? Like right up to the right. You understand that this is like right at Trump, right? Like.
Renamed the street too.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, there's certain people that are just there to
credit,
are just there to start shit. You know what I mean? Whether they're start shit one way or another. I think it's like a sick symptom of the USA and our reality TV culture and all this shit. Like, we just extreme shit. And when it's anything less than that, we get bored. It's we're terrible. This last song though is called "A Few Words for the Firing Squad," and it's a nice cap to the album.
This is for the do-gooders that the no-gooders use and abuse. For the truth tellers tied to the whipping post, left beat battle crews. For the ones whose body hung from a tree like a piece of strange fruit. Go hard, last word to the fire squad was fuck you too.
Hear the lyrics.
That was fire right there.
Yeah. So he's talking about, like, he's basically saying, like, at the end, like, this is I guess an anthem to all of these people, do-gooders, the no-gooders that are used and abused, truth tellers left on the whipping post, left beaten, battered, and bruised. Like, he's getting real on this track, and I think the point of it, I guess, is that he's willing to go to the wall.
Yeah.
So.
Well, not right now though, but yeah.
We'll see.
I shouldn't harp on that, but that last line.
We're 2 weeks in.
That last line was the one though. That was where it just like, whoo, where it hit it.
Yeah.
It just brought all that home to me, like, incredibly.
Yeah.
But no, there's a lot in this verse, man, to unpack. I don't.
Yeah. I know. We don't have to unpack everything if you don't want to.
Oh no, it's.
But part of the reason that I chose this, album though, is because, first of all, Killer Mike had that speech thing, and RTJ4 just came out, and it's got a lot of lines that are good for fucking shit up. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the beats are crazy. Like that one right there was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it's again, it's just the whole verse just is basically just telling of what's going on. I mean, it's like I said, it's a lot in there, and it's actually that part of it being a lot in this one little piece is just because there's a lot. You know what I mean? It really reflects. I don't know how recently they wrote this, but I mean, they could have went back in and did some edits. You never know. And some of this stuff is so on point. I'm like, huh,
I know.
It's kind of new. It's like it's the thing. It's like it seems like this is a unique. This.
How long ago did this album come out?
It came out on Wednesday, I think June 3rd.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
I will say, because I follow LP on Twitter, that supposedly it was done in April, I think. Okay. Because I was crossing my fingers that it would come out on 4/20 because he said it was done already.
Right.
So yeah,
I was just saying it's interesting, how much.
I do wonder. I did wonder that too. I wondered if they went back for anything. You know what I mean?
They won't tell you. Yeah,
they won't. No. But it does. It does make you wonder. I mean, you could go in and change a few lines. Yeah. Not saying you did, RTJ guys. I'm just saying. But it is, it is like, it's very prescient, but it's prescient because we've been living in this. We've been living in this for our entire history of the United States. We've just been pushing this ball of actual equality along and not actually fucking doing anything with it, with all the talk that we talk about freedom and liberty and shit, like, it doesn't mean shit at the end of the day.
No. Until you fight for it.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, putting your life on the line, in front of the firing squad if it comes down to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Definitely, like, talking about putting your body on the line for the movement. Mm-hmm. The interpretation right now that then the language that's being used is right now. But it's also just like, keep fucking fighting. Like, the world's against you. They're gonna, no matter how well you're doing or how good you do or how ideal minority you are, it doesn't matter. There's still motherfuckers out there that'll kill you.
Right.
But you just gotta keep fighting and keep saying fuck them.
Yeah. Getting to the end of this though, like, what are some more maybe pieces of advice that we can give to people, or maybe even places they can donate, that kind of thing, to help the Black Lives Matter cause and the cause.
Well, the 350 bail, you mentioned that. That's one.
Yeah, that's one. Freethe350.org. Go check that out.
You might know more than me on that subject. I don't.
Yeah, dude. I mean.
Yeah. I think it's Freethe350bailfund.org.
Yeah.
Freethe350 bail fund. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to find Minneapolis stuff right now, just because it's ground zero. So I mean, if anything you search of how to help Minneapolis, you'll find tons of lists. But Minnesota Freedom Fund is one of them. for bail. Every community has at least 4 organizations that are doing food drives or donation drives.
Yeah.
And so that's like widespread. But yeah, I think like the big thing right now that we're seeing work in Minneapolis is like talking to your communities, like get to know your fucking neighbor, figure out if they're a fucking racist or not. And then if they are, like act accordingly. Really, like,
let's talk about it.
When you go to the protests and stuff, like start talking with people. Like I just started kind of like walking up to people saying, hey, I'm posting a lot of information and I want people in Minneapolis to get it. Like, can I add you on Facebook?
Nice.
And that's the entire conversation. Right. And because I'm not a social person in that aspect of like meeting people like that.
I'm not.
So like a lot of people are like that, but literally like just having that concept of sharing information and that being the intent of it, not even necessarily trying to be buddy with people, but really connect with people, because I mean, we're seeing all of these resources being shared online. Like we're not sending mailers out, we're not sending letters and shit. Like we're sending the shit on Facebook, making events and posting stuff.
Follow, so you stuff like
if
that.
you don't have the audience that needs that information, then it's like you're just kind of putting it out there for fucking nobody.
Yeah.
Then my problem, because I only know 3 people up here right now on Facebook, so I've just been kind of taking that mentality. But yeah.
Well, hey, now you know a lot more.
Events,
you know,
talk to
a lot in common.
Yeah.
So add me and I'll direct some of the people from that I know from up there. You know.
Sure. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and I was gonna say on top of what you were saying, if you are having big protests in your city, maybe go out and be a body in the protest, because the more people that are there, the safer that everyone is that is there. You know what I mean? Get buddy up, always be in groups of like 2 or 3, don't get, caught by a couple police officers alone. Keep your camera at the ready, you know what I mean? Like fucking also, help with supplies, help with like medic stuff. If you have any experience in that kind of thing, you don't have to go out there and like, be part of the chanting if you don't want to. You can just go and help run supplies or help people that are in need. So there's plenty of ways to plug in.
Take a run before you go too. Just take note of how out of shape you are, because
I was like, cardio in.
I haven't ran in so long.
Oh man, I was so tired after the other night.
Your ability on how far you can run.
Yep. And
keep fighting. Just keep up the fight. Keep protesting. Everybody out there who will watch this, keep going. Don't stop, man. That's really all I gotta say. Keep going.
Yeah, and take a day off if you need to. You know what I mean? I know there's a movement, but like take care of your mental. Like don't burn out.
Physical, both.
But then get back out there and keep going. So
right on.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna
nice to meet you, man.
I'm gonna put this out immediately so that we can hopefully people can, I don't know, maybe someone can learn something. Black Lives Matter, fuck 12, and you guys stay safe out there. Okay.
Catch y'all later.
Thanks for listening. The Album Concept Hour is Brad LeBaron, Dave Gallagher, John Aker, and Scott Wesley. Special thanks to King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard for the theme music. Please like us on Facebook or friend us on Twitter or MySpace and let us know what concept album you would like to hear on the podcast. See you on Side B. This has been a Revolver Audio production. Executive producer Brad LeBaron. For more podcasts, visit soundcloud.com/revolveraudio, or to support new content, visit co-fi.com/revolveraudio.